That was a good bite break. I love that we can talk about insane bridesmaids and crazy wedding stories over a nice slice of margarita. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or to it if this is the first time you are seeing my face. Thank you for clicking on it. My name is Jacy, and welcome to my little sleepover. So if you didn't catch the last video of all the calamities that are happening in my life, one of the main ones is that my ceiling collapsed in my bedroom, and there was just a big pile of dirt everywhere. Long story short, I just had my carpets cleaned in my entire apartment. And I've been too tired to bring in all of the furniture back in. So while we have an empty bedroom, I figured we'd do this like sleepover style and just have a little casual Storytime Snippets video about some crazy wedding experiences. If you haven't seen one of these videos before, my Storytime Snippets are just small, bite-sized little stories that may or may not be mine, but that range from the crazy and insane to the tame and mundane. So just funny little relatable stories, but as you know, I want to hear your stories. So tell me some of the weird, wacky wedding scenarios you've seen in your time. But I've got my pizza, I've got my loosey goose juice in the form of grapes, so let's get this poppin'. I was about to say literally, but this is a screw top. Ooh, I don't know if I trust myself to open a bottle of wine and drink it on the floor on my newly shampooed carpets. Well, you only live once. Time to learn from my mistakes, team. Jesus Christ. In case you're dying to know, I didn't buy this pizza. I work at an ice cream shop and we make a lot of trades with the other like restaurants and eateries and bakeries on the block. And they gave me a free pizza last night, so leftovers coming in clutch. And if you're dying to know what wine I'm drinking, I don't know, it was given to me, but it's Angeline and it was freaking hard to open. It's gonna be the blooper because it took me like 20 minutes, it felt like. All right, so snippet. Oh shoot, I still have my glasses on. I don't want you to see the ring light. I'm gonna do this blind. I hope I'm not out of focus. Also, this camera has been going out of focus lately. It's been pissing me off. It's because it's broken and the screen is turned upside down. Not important, but this better work. So for snippet number one is my own Storytime snippet. I was an actual guest at this wedding and I witnessed all of this with my own eyes. So you can trust me, you guys. But I was a guest at this wedding. Well, duh. I was a +1 at this wedding, so I didn't know the couple super well. I was just invited as a +1 to this wedding. But what I did know about this couple was that they were high school sweethearts. They'd been together for 10+ years, and that the bride's mom had passed away when she was younger, unfortunately. And so she and her brother were raised completely by her dad. It's kind of the only background information that you need. So the wedding ceremony happens. It's beautiful. I probably shed a tear as doves were, you know, released into the skies. And then we're ushered into the reception hall for the party, for the food and the drinky drinks and the dancing. That's the best part of the wedding. But after we eat and before we dance, we had to do speeches. And so the bride's father stands up and is about to go make his speech. And we're all, you know, kind of clutching, being like, oh no, this is going to be such an emotional speech, you know? He raised this daughter. This is a big day for him too. This should be one of the highlights of the wedding. So he walks up there, puts his glasses on his face, and pulls out just the fattest stack of papers that we can only assume is his speech. It is a ream of trees. It is Yellow Pages has nothing on this guy because he is about to deliver a novel of a speech. But it's gonna be moving, so we'll have some patience. So, you know, he starts off with the typical, you know, growing up, the bride was charismatic and vivacious and full of personality. And then her mother passed away and I had to take over all of the parenting from there, which is truly just devastating. I couldn't imagine how hard that would be. And then he launches into this story. He says, oh, I remember when the bride was 16 years old and she first started dating the groom. And as her only parent, I had to take her to the gynecologist. And I remember sitting there in the room with her and her doctor asks, are you sexually active? And she just giggles and says, sorry, Dad. Yes, I am. And that's how I learned that the bride and groom were sexually active. Sir, what in the earth, wind, and fire are you talking about right now? And we're all laughing, but also just wide-eyed like, that's a crazy choice to put into your wedding speech as the father of the bride. But you know, you gotta have a little bit of humor to that stuff. And so we appreciated the levity after talking about, you know, her mom passing away. And so then he starts talking about more about the high school version of the bride, but also about her brother. And he just goes off on this weird diatribe, just undercutting the bride and just putting the son on a pedestal. He was like, Oh yeah, the bride was a good student, but not as good as my son. My son got straight A's, varsity football, scholarships. Was too busy kissing the groom all the time, am I right, team? And he was just meandering around the most nonsensical anecdotes that we realized this guy was not making a speech. He was just taking a scenic route through this bride's life, and it had nothing to do with the wedding. It was just weird story after weird story that like was a little bit funny, but more so getting pity chuckles. And we start looking at our watches being like, all right, it's been 9 minutes, 10, 11, 12. This guy was still talking and still saying the most pointless stories while we're trying to get our dance on to Bruno Mars on the dance floor. Also, a fun game that I play at weddings, side tangent, I always make a bet with anybody in the wedding party that the first song they play to get people on the dance floor is either Bruno Mars or Justin Timberlake. Try it, you'll win some money, because it's always those two. And then another weird little side story he started talking about was how much he paid for the wedding and how he paid for everything. He just kept mentioning like, oh yeah, you know, like we set aside money for this wedding because her mother passed away, but I paid for everything. And so we had to compromise a lot with the bride on this wedding because I'm paying for it. For instance, she wanted a DJ, but I don't like DJs. I wanted a live band. So I hired this 70s cover band. That's my buddy Freddie in the band. We play pickleball on Fridays. Good guy, good guy. And it was just going on, and later we learned that he wasn't kidding. There was literally a DJ and a 70s cover band switching off every half hour. It was very bizarre, but clearly the compromise that this father of the bride had made with the bride since he was paying for it. But also stop telling your guests how much you paid for it and what exactly you paid for it. It was so odd. And then this part got us laughing again. He was improvising and started going off about how he paid for the catering and how awful it was. He literally said, yeah, and like, I'm glad you all enjoyed the food. I mean, the chicken was a little dry. Chicken was a little dry, am I right? Could have used a little remoulade sauce, if you know what I'm talking about. Right, guys? Right, guys in the front row? And we're like, is this guy, Matt Rife, doing crowd work right now for his wedding speech? Sir, it has been 13 minutes. Let's wrap this up. Let's wrap this up. And after about 14 minutes, you know, somebody must have signaled to him from behind the room because he wrapped it up. He stopped talking about how daddy's credit card paid for everything everybody was indulging in, and we were able to move on with the wedding. And you know, in hindsight, I actually think it was pretty sweet. I think it's like the father's time to shine where it's like, hey, my daughter's only gonna get married once. It's her high school sweetheart who I've known for 10 plus years. Let me have my moment in this room where we gathered all of our significant loved ones. So I think it was sweet. I just think it was one of those silly, crazy things that as a guest who had no idea what was going on, I was like, I need to take notes because I might be doing a YouTube Storytime Snippets video about this someday. It's foreshadowing. I'm doing it now. Hee hee. You know, I like margarita pizzas, but there's not enough cheese. So it's really just like bread and sauce with like a hint of mozzarella. But it's fine. It's good. I love free food though. That's the best part. All right, let me finish chewing. This isn't a mukbang. I hate mukbangs. I hate listening to people chew. Let me edit all this out. All right, so snippet number 2 is a secondhand story time. I have a lot of words on this channel and phrases and branding. You'll catch up, guys. You'll catch up. Hopefully you guys are catching up to drinking with me because I've had like 6 sips of that wine and bada bing, bada booey, I am feeling it. So this one's a little mini story time, but I thought it was funny, so I still wanted to share. So I had a friend who went to a wedding and she told me about this experience. But she was at a wedding, she wasn't in it, but when they were like seated during the reception hour for like food and drinks, 2 of the bridesmaids were kind of like walking around to all the tables and she just assumed they were greeting everybody and thanking them for coming to the wedding. But by the time they made it to her table, one of the things that they asked her as a woman, they said, hey, like just out of curiosity, are you singled? And if so, are you going to be doing the bouquet toss? And this person was like, what? Yeah, probably, I guess. And so the bridesmaids straightened up, clasped their hands together, and were basically like, we would like to pitch our case of why we should catch the bouquet and you should allow it. Bridesmaid number 1 starts pitching her case like she's a politician and is like, I've been together with my boyfriend for 5 years. He has yet to propose, but I really think that if you let me catch the bouquet, it would be the kick in the butt that he really needs. And then bridesmaid number 2 is like, I just had a failed engagement where my fiance left me, so I could really use the push from the universe of catching the bouquet and really reinvigorating my romantic life. So that's why you should vote for us to catch the bouquet. And my friend who's telling me this story, and I agree, how hysterical is it that they started a little political campaign to just catch a bundle of flowers because there's so much meaning behind it. And it was all in good natured and good fun. They're not like being serious about it, like, hey, we're gonna karate chop you and linebacker you out of the way in order to catch those peonies, so watch out. No, it was all very kind of like silly, but also like a little hinted in reality. But what I think is the funniest part is that my friend who's at this wedding, she's listening to them pitch, she kind of understands their humor and she goes, wow, that's crazy. Kick rocks, cause I'm gonna catch the bouquet, bitch. And so she starts being like, I support you guys, but I will also be on there putting in my hat to catch the bouquet because I'm actually here with my boyfriend of 3 years. And I mentioned ring shopping and he seemed pretty into it. So I feel like this would be the valid next step if you just allow me to catch the bouquet. And so they were all just having a good time with it. You know, the bouquet toss comes and it was so funny. My friend said that all the girls did go on the dance floor, but they all like clearly stayed towards the perimeter. And then just those three, the original two bridesmaids and my friend, were there on the dance floor, kind of being silly with it, blocking people out. And it was bridesmaid number 2 who had gotten dumped at the altar who caught the bouquet. So love isn't dead, team. But how funny that those girls were just like, sorry, my personality type is protagonist, so I have to win. All right, so that was a fun little snippet about silliness and laughter at a wedding. Now get ready for the treachery. Dun, dun, dun. So for this next storytime snippet, it is from a friend who is what I would deem a professional bridesmaid. Like, you guys have seen 27 dresses. Is it 27 dresses? 21 dresses? 23 dresses? You guys know the Katherine Heigl A Lot of Dresses movie where always a bridesmaid, never a bride, but then she becomes a bride with James Marsden and it's like a classic rom-com. My friend is like that. So she's just always in weddings, and so she actually is in this story and the next story time because she just has so many story time snippets. But I will call her Margot. So Margot in this story is my friend. There'll be some other characters, so lock in, buddy. It's gonna get confusing. So Margot was actually a bridesmaid in this wedding of this couple where the groom did have a history of cheating on the bride. It was only one time, but you know, one time's enough, always a cheater, never a cheater. That's not right. But he had a checkered past of infidelity, but you know, they had worked through it, they had been together for many years, and time to seal the deal and get the government involved and betroth your love in front of a room full of all your friends and family. That sounds like my nightmare. Blech. But what was double interesting was that also in the wedding party was a girl who we will call Mary. And Mary had a bit of a reputation of being, I don't know what the word is for, a step beyond a flirty flirt. She was that single friend in the group where you kind of had to be like, hey babe, I don't want you to be alone with her because she's gonna try to get at you. And it wasn't so much that she was in love with all of these friends' boyfriends and husbands. She was one of those people that just had that ego trip where she needed to be liked. She needed that confidence booster and narcissism of knowing that all these men fawned after her and wanted her. So she was always blatantly flirting with everybody's husbands and boyfriends. So much so that my friend Margot was like, I actually banned my husband from hanging out with her. And like they'd hang out in group setting sort of things, but this Mary person was just such a red flag that she was like, I don't want you anywhere near her because she doesn't even like you, but she'll try to get at you just knowing that she can. She was that type of person. And so she's in this wedding party and all of the bridesmaids are looking at the bride being like, you sure you want Mary here? Because she's low-key in love with your husband. She's gonna try to steal your man on your wedding day, perhaps. You sure this is a good idea? And the bride's like, no, she would never do that to me. I need to get better at my foreshadowing. It's getting a little obvious, but stay with me for the journey, team. So the bride and groom get married in a beautiful ceremony, and then at the reception, you know, they're having a good time, but basically everybody in the room knew that the sultry brunette at table 3 harbored lustrous feelings for the blonde-haired groom. Which also, if you are attracted to an adult blonde man, you should just keep that to yourself. I'm kidding. Don't come for me, blondies. But sadly, I wish I could report that, you know, Mary and the groom got caught doing the deed in the bathroom while Bruno Mars played first on the dance floor. But that's not what happened. Actually, I'm not sad that I'm reporting that. That's good news. They didn't cheat at their wedding. No. They cheated 3 months after in the new house that the bride and groom had bought once they got married. It's pretty shitty, you guys. So yes, 3 months later, the bride caught the groom with Mary in their brand new turnkey home and had to basically divorce him right there on the spot. That's not how that works, but she decided she was gonna divorce him. Oh God, I'm not doing a tipsy one of these ever again, guys. But it was sad that like my friend Margot, you know, had to be the one to caress her and hold her and comfort her and commiserate with her, and also refrain from being like, we all told you so, ma'am. We all told you so. The red flags were there. She doesn't even like your husband. She just wanted to know that she could get a married man. And it's not even like they were in love and trying to leave the bride for each other. No, they were just having a little sexy affair because they could, and they didn't get away with it. So I think the lesson here is, if the shoe fits, then lace that bitch up and run away from all of the red flags, because that lady was one of them. And probably have pizza sauce in my teeth. But the last snippet is also from this professional bridesmaid, Margot, and this wedding took place in Utah. Utah or Colorado or Idaho, one of those. Anyway, so this wedding was originally scheduled for a date, but it was in a state where it snowed and weather happens, and their wedding actually had to get rescheduled due to inclement weather, which, oh, I couldn't. My sister was a COVID bride, and so she had 2 weddings and had to like work around rescheduling and postponing things and letting everybody know. I couldn't imagine if my wedding was coming up and I had to reschedule it because it snowed. Oh, what a logistical nightmare, but it happens. So the wedding was rescheduled for 6 months later at this same resort. Now this was a ski resort. It was in this mountainous town sort of thing. And so everything was just kind of like taken from this time of the year to this time of the year. And so the wedding day comes, Margot is the maid of honor, and this was one of those weddings where they did all of the photos before the actual ceremony and reception. So they're doing all of the group photos beforehand, and you know, the photographer that was there, he was kind of just like pointing and shooting and being like, okay, nice. Okay, let's get one of just the bride and groom. Very nice. And so he's like being really slow with it, not very creative, and that's where Margot, again, professional bridesmaid, kind of realizes that these aren't the kind of photos you should be getting for a wedding. This guy isn't really taking charge. He doesn't really have a vision of what people want for this. And so she kind of like pulls him aside and was just like, hey buddy, come here. What's your experience with this? This guy, caught red-handed, basically tells her, yeah, so like I work for the ski resort, but I'm a ski photographer. Like I'm the action shot photographer for the ski resort, but it's off season right now. And because this wedding got rescheduled, the original photographer who does the weddings and events, she couldn't make it. So I stepped in because I'm also a photographer. So like, don't worry, I got you. That's not what you want to hear on your wedding day, is it? And so Margot's like, oh God, like this makes so much sense. Like this guy was not getting the right types of shots. He wasn't really directing. You could tell he was just a point and shoot action photographer. So that is sadly when Margot has to basically be the creative director of this entire photo shoot, and she takes that role seriously. She starts directing it like, okay, all of the groomsmen, perfect. Everybody hold him. Okay, everybody hands up. Nice. Let's get all the bridesmaids. Let's look at the bride. Let's giggle. Let's laugh. Let's get couples in with the brides. All right, parents, let's get parents in with the bride and groom. She full on took over like it was an America's Next Top Model photo shoot. She was Nigel Barker and the bride and groom were winners of America's Next Top Model. Naima. Why is that the only America's Next Top Model person I can think of? And she really did step in and save the day because the bride and groom had no idea what was going on. It's not their responsibility to have to figure that out. It's kind of shady of the resort to makeshift a solution that would have resulted in permanent damage, because photos are forever. You only get one chance to get your wedding photos, and they would have turned out bad. And so then after they take their wedding photos, poor Margot just had to be on high alert the entire duration of the wedding, because here was this ski resort photographer who was trying to take these one-of-a-day wedding photos, and Margot just had to be in his ear being like, hey, cake cutting's happening, like you should maybe think to do this type of shot or this type of shot. And she had to really like coach him and direct him through it. Now she did tell me at the end that the photographer was very grateful and was just like, hey, thanks for helping me out. Like I didn't realize how totally different this would be. So shout out to Margot, professional bridesmaid, hire her. She's got you on her wedding day. She's basically an event coordinator. And it is an anonymous name and you'll have no idea who she is, but way to save the day for this ski resort wedding. I will cheers to you, Margot. Clink. But that's gonna be it for this video. I did have like some snippets I was gonna include, but they were like expected. You know, like the mother of the groom shows up wearing white and tries to destroy the wedding. Or there are a lot of videos actually that inspired me to make this video of just like bad weddings that are going around on TikTok. So like there was this one where this guy was like texting at the altar, like the groom was like updating his Facebook status right at the altar in front of the officiant. Insane. There's also a bunch of like awful men just like shoving cake in the bride's face and then they get divorced right after the wedding. I'll leave some of those tagged below. I got inspired by those, but I wanted to give my own little personal take. But as usual, I ran out of breath. I want to hear your stories. Tell me about the wacky and weird wedding scenarios that you guys have seen, whether they're insane and, you know, the whole wedding ended before it could start, or whether they're silly, like a couple of bridesmaids just saying, hey, let me catch the bouquet, because I'm lonely. But that's going to be it for this video. If you guys aren't following me on social media, why not? That's really rude and hurts my feelings. I'm very active on social media. Go follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok for, I don't know, more nonsense spewing out of my mouth. And check out my YouTube vlog channel. I've been posting a lot of vlogs. It makes me happy over there. So if you want to hang out like this even more casually with me, I think in the most recent video, I literally just showed you what I bought from Daiso for like 10 minutes. But if you like hanging out with me, then check out that video. But I thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Toodles! Oh my God. I go to the gym. I should have better grip strength than this. Zoom in on that, cameraman. My hands are red. The whole video's ruined if I can't do this. I have to roll up my sleeves to open up a bottle of wine. Angeline, what kind of super glue are you putting in your lids? Is that my bones breaking or the wine bottle? Please, I'm just a girl. I'm not equipped to, oh, thank goodness. I'm just a girl after all who needs her vino. Cheers. Ugh.